now have a little dude that will wander around, won't collide with itself. What I should do is... Now, I already have a prefab folder, you pig. If I just drag this in there, we'll then create a prefab. So this is like a... This is basically saying I want to reuse as an asset multiple times so I can duplicate it. So if I have it there like that, I can very easily just recreate it. So obviously, stream game, I want to have one spawn for every viewer. So having that as a prefab makes sense. I can then give that to another object and it can create multiple like I was doing. Right, so now I have a basic little dude that wanders around physics and animation. What I would like to do, I think, is somewhat automate that now. I just go to the Trello page. That's basically what I wanted. So I wanted them to spawn in when they come to view basic NPCs, wander around town. That's kind of what I want to do. So we'll give them some pretty simple AI. That means they can move around on their own. Okay, let's open that script. We'll go for there. So we're going to do this. What I want to do, it's really simple because I don't really have complex space. All I really need to do is give them an X position target. So, like, anywhere really. So, I could be smart with this, or I could be hacky. We'll start hacky. We know, right, that 8.5, right, minus 8.5 as well. Yeah, it's going to be the range. So, at the start, we are going to define. Again, public. I make a lot of stuff public to start with, just as way of visualizing it, because Unity will show the public variables. It's much easier if you start public. Just when you're testing and programming, you can make sure things are happening the way they're supposed to. So that's what I like to do. So public float, we want a target X position, and to start with, that'll be 0. Because that's not immediately obvious what it is, I'm going to give it a comment to say, actually, summary. Target X position villager is aiming to reach. Will move in relevant direction to get to target. And then in start, we'll say target X is equal to a random range between minus 8.5F and 8.5F. It should give us a random target. And then separate this up. Animation logic. And then AI logic. So we need to figure out where it is in relation. So what we should do is use positions to figure that out. Oh, right. Anyway, AI logic. So I don't really want to do that because that doesn't really make sense. What we want to do is have a function which is choose location, something like that. And then we'll have the function down here, which is void choose location, and it will choose a location. And then at the start, we can say, so we want transform.position.x minus target int direction as equal to that. watch mathf dot not absolute dot. There's a thing I can do that'll mean I just get whether it's positive or negative. Dot sign. This is stonks. Should be. Right. If we just say target x. Wait, target x is a float, isn't it? Math sign returns. Right. Okay. I don't know why you need a float sign. That should do the job. Sign returns a sign of a float. It's a float. We might get this might get dirty, but okay. So what this will do, and I need to remember if I've got this the right way around. If we write this out, so say if the position of the villager right now is x, 0, so I just made it 0, and if its target position is 5, then 0 minus 5 is equal to minus 5. So then it'll want to go backwards to go forwards. So we need it to be the other way. So then, in that case, it will be 5 minus 0. And then the direction it's pointing will be 5. And then just to make sure that works, if the position is, say, 1, and 5 minus 1, still a positive value of 4. So the sign of that is going to be 1. Which means it's going to go that way. And then let's say if the value is actually minus 5. It's down here. This is the fun of maths, right? This is why this works. So if its starting position is minus 5 and its target position is 5, then 5 minus minus 5 is going to become 5 plus 5, which is 10. And then 10 sign is still 1. We'll go right. And then if we do the inverse, so if the starting position is 5, target position is minus. This is actually, good thing we tested this. 5 minus 5. If the 5... yes, 5, the current position is minus 5, the target position is minus 5. So, target position is minus 5, minus 5. Minus 5 minus 5 is a number. It's minus 10. And then that sign is going to be negative, which means it'll go to the left, which should be right. I'm just shouting numbers and I'm getting myself confused. The target's there, yeah. So that's some very simple one-dimensional vector math. So what I can actually do is there I can say x direction. This should work. It might not, but in theory, this equation will give us a positive or a negative number, and this function will return that. So it'll be either a positive or negative value. So it's going to be positive 1 or negative 1, and then we'll convert that positive or negative 1 into a direction and assign the x direction. And then what we're going to do is then in the update, we just are going to monitor that each frame. So maybe I don't need to do it in there. But I like the idea that before we even hit the update function, it knows the direction. So we will leave it there because I decided. And that should work. Let's test it. We do pause and then hit play. It'll be ready to go and then stop immediately. So its target x is minus 5. So it goes in that direction. Then it bounces. Ooh. What it should do is when it hits minus 5, is it should flip the other way, which it's not doing. maybe I am doing it wrong. So let's just add an intermediate variable to just see, so public int direction, and then there direction is equal to int cast of that. And x direction is equal to a cast of direction. Like that. We can see, hopefully, that value changing. But we might not. It may just show the same information. Oh, there we go. It didn't work initially, but then it did. It could be based on the value, and maybe using floats is a bad idea. I might actually change that to we'll just have it. There's a way I can do this. For now, we'll just have it be integers. That'll help. I should need to cast that. Does math sign just always deal? Oh, maybe I do just cast it. Oh, I may have jabbed play way too much then. It gets real stuck. So when it gets close to that value, we want it to find another position. Right. I do that. Okay. Should work. Well, I didn't initially, but that should work now. Let's watch it. Probably not. That does work. Cool. So now, if there is a math function I would use. It's like approximately. If math target x and transform dot position dot x. I don't know how reliable this is, so I might make my own version. So if they're approximately correct, then we'd want it to choose another location. Say it may not like it. It may say that. It may never actually think it's approximate, because I don't know how it decides that. It doesn't let you really parameterize it. No, yeah, see, it's not sure. So I'll do it myself. So we will say if the mff dot absolute value of that subtraction is less than 1. Do that. Then you can actually watch that. We want to in the debug log. And it should slowly get to less than 1, and then it will get to 1 and change. Let's have a look. See in, double tap play and dox yourself. There we go. So it's kind of hard to read, but if I just go to the start. So if you, ooh, actually it starts already immediately. First update frame. The absolute difference is less than 1. So the fact that it did it again implies it found a target very similar, but I'm not sure. But it got there. So we're not gonna do that. But I will do for future reference as a safety precaution. This dot name. Actually, let's do the nice way to do strings. Name. Has reached target. Finding a new one. And we have a close bracket for that if statement, so it doesn't error everything out. And now there we go, and it just wanders, finds a target, and immediately goes to find another. Doesn't stop. This fucking villager has absolutely zero chill. Now if we just do that again, because it's fun, right? When you do one thing, you do in extremes, right? You just have loads of them running around like that. It's cool and interesting. And they're all randomly finding locations. But because they're all doing it, it's kind of weird. They look like they're behaving very similarly. Now, to make that look a bit more natural, what we should really do is have them stop for a little bit. Should, and you know what I might do, is... I don't need anything too crazy, I just need a simple timer, but I have one. I made a really simple timer script. See if I can go find it. I put it on my Dropbox. I have to be able to get into my Dropbox. No, I can't. Right, that's awkward. I know where I can find it. Another project I worked on. Let's go find it. Script. And we want to have... It's got to be in utility, isn't it? Hope so. Timer. Get the raw files. And then in scripts, I will also create a C# script and call it timer. Jump into there. Actually jump into there once Unity has compiled the script and chug the code in. I'm just going to quickly go through it though. Just update it a little bit. Let's identify timer. Timer counter on maximum time. Where it starts immediately. Counts down or is active and complete. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, that should be good. Now, if we add a timer script, we can call it wait time. And the max time it's going to be random, so we're going to assign that. Start on awake, no. Counts down, doesn't really matter. And active complete, we won't touch. So, in the script, as with every other component I've added, I'm going to have a timer. We are then going to give it a reference. The component on the object. Then we are going to here say timer dot max. Actually, you know what? We'll call it wait timer in here as well. Wait timer. Visual Studio let me quickly rename it, so we'll say wait timer dot max time is equal to random dot range. We'll say it can wait between 1 second, say 5 seconds, and then wait timer dot start. Then First thing we'll do is if wait timer dot active. So if the timer's not active, we don't even care. And then if wait timer dot complete, we will then choose a location, and then it will find a location, and it will start moving again, because when wait timer is complete, show you. So an update, in its own update, if the timer is at that position, it's no longer active. Oh, that's a point. It may not. It will set complete to true though, so it should be fine. So now it will randomly wait for between a second and 5. I might make that a float, so there's a bit of fluffy variance in there, rather than 5 possible wait times. Start the timer, and the next frame round, it's going to check to see if wait timer is active. Now, we're slowly reaching a complexity level where it might be an idea to have another enum to describe the state of the villager. We're not quite at there yet, but we kind of, it's definitely close. So something we'll do that makes sense as well. If the wait timer is active, then we're not currently trying to decide if it's at its target. So what we should do is actually stick that code in there. Oh, I didn't describe it all, but there we are. Live and you learn. The reason, don't necessarily have to do that. It won't necessarily work any differently if whether it's in that else statement or not. But think of it like when I had 1,200 fucking dudes running around. If every single one is applying that logic every frame, regardless of whether it's waiting or not, that's inefficient. It won't make that much different in the long run, because the logic I've got is very simple. I'm subtracting a value, doing a very quick function that will assign it a sign, casting it. This is nothing to a fucking computer nowadays. The most difficult thing I'm getting it to do is fucking decide a random variable, I guess. Even that's not that wild. So if I just make it run as little as possible, I'm designing with it being optimal in mind. Now, things like the X direction and the flip check, that always has to happen. Is if we're not always checking that, it's not always going to be accurate. There's a way I could possibly optimize it, but it's not as clear-cut and easy to do. So anyway, let's actually test it. Oh. I should... No, it's getting confused. So, what we will do, first of all, is if it has reached a target, waiting for... This is what we'll do. Wait timer, max time is going to be that. We'll say blah 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 has reached target, waiting for wait timer dot max time until I find a new location. And what we'll also do is have the target x is equal to transform dot position dot x on the dot, so it shouldn't do the wiggle around, although I'm not sure why it's doing that anyway. So what we can do is play that again, see what happens. So weirdly enough, this is, so if we go down to like here, debug.break, we can pause the code at this position, see what's happening. Not quite sure why it's doing that yet. We'll find out why, hopefully, real soon. So I hit wait timer.start. That's why, because it's using that start function. It's start timer. Right, we've cracked the case, peeps. So bam, now it's actually starting the timer, not calling the start. Yeah, fucking dumb move by me. So now it's saying it's going to wait about 2 seconds before it finds a new location. So now, right. So it didn't actually stop. So the reason it's not stopping is because X direction is being set there. And then we stop when the timer is active. So whatever X direction was, it now is not set. So first thing I need to do is actually left and right. And when we've reached the target, we'll then say X direction is equal to direction dot none. Like so. And that should stop him from continuing to move. Because the code is actually stopping. But the physics side isn't, because it's like, well, I'm being told to go in this direction. Because the X direction is this. There we go, so it stops. Stopping. And then, hang on a minute. Right, let's try that again and make sure that wasn't just a weird random. So, target is 1.68. It's gonna wait for a little bit. So it waited, and then unless the target was right, we're gonna have to do the absolute a little bit closer. I think it's just some weird randomness there. So target X was 3.5. It's now gonna wait. Then when that time is done. No, it's not. It's not finding a new target. That's just odd. So when it starts, it chooses a location. It says target X is that. And X direction is that. Maybe. Yep, I know what it is. It's the way I've designed that timer is not the way I'm thinking it's designed. So if I do that, so if wait timer is not active, I need a better wait. I need a better timer basically, but this will work for now. So if wait timer is not active and it's complete, no, wait timer. Well, actually, efficiency aside, we'll just have that code execute. But now, until I make a better timer. So it's gonna choose direction based off the target, and it's then gonna move towards it. So if wait timer dot complete, we'll then say choose location. Just check. So when it's on the update, because technically it will keep saying it's complete even though it's not. So I guess I could say wait timer please equal false. This is a very poorly designed timer, but back when I made it, I knew how it worked, so I was just working around how I made it. And then choose location and deactivates the timer. it sets the extraction based off the target. I only want to do that if wait timer active is not true. Just need to get rid of that as well. Otherwise, there's no point in it. Yeah, that should be better. Question mark. I'm thinking I actually make a state machine though. Right, bam. Target X is minus 1.52. Wait, and then. Sweet, I did it. Yeah. Straight away, I'm going to have that timer be, I think maybe 5 seconds is a lot of time. Here's bang. Bam. 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 Cool. And just because you can and I want to mess about with it. Have a bunch of them wander around. Pretty simple AI, but that's exactly what the guys in stream avatars do. If you look at the screen just below, they sort of wander around, stand there for a bit. Theirs probably stand for a bit more. In fact, yeah, my guys look fucking hyperactive, so actually having that larger timer is probably good. So do that again and see if they don't look like they are off their tits on cat. They still a little bit, but I think that's the idle animation. It's just kind of fast. They just look like waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. Yeah, I think I'm gonna change that. Change it on the prefab level. Make it like 0.6. See how that looks. It's a bit more reasonable. Sweet. Simple wandering around AI. Nice and easy. I think I'm going to commit that change as well. Simple wander AI. Villagers will seek out a random X position within a range. In fact, before I commit that, not print. I don't want to print anything. Public int brain engage. What we're going to call this? Public int wander range, and by default we're going to have it as 8, and then public int. What the hell is GitHub doing there? Wait range. Gotta be between 1 and 5. Public float. Do I need to really? Yeah, I will. Let's just call it Closeness Factor. It's not exactly the most intuitively named thing. Basically, we're not hard coding values anymore. Now, 1 is technically a hard-coded value, but I'm saying I think it's logical that it can wait at least. You know what? No, it's not. You know what? We can do better than that. min wait time, max wait time. Always try to make your code a little bit better. Then min wait time, max wait time. Random is between the wander range and the negative wander range. Any other hard-coded values? Not really. I mean, a fair criticism of this, by the way, I would say, is that when it's all recompiled, it's happy. Setting them as variables, making them public and having them accessible here is kind of almost just as hard-codedy as... Let's just apply that to the prefab. Is almost as hard-codedy as just having the numbers in there. The main difference on the Unity sort of side of it is that if I want to change these values now, I can do it here without modifying the code. So it doesn't require recompilation, so I can change it here. You could argue, and any of you who've ever hosted game servers will know, you can definitely improve it more by having like config files and ini files. So anyone who does, say, server hosting, when you go into those files, you can change values, and then you don't have to rebuild. Because if this were a published game and I wanted to alter these values, I would have to go into the game and change the values and rebuild it, which I might not want to do. I might just want to change a config. Now, what I should do, should move towards actually having these villagers spawned in by a manager of some kind.